Let's look at the concept of equity and enrichment. Equity, this is a giant issue with everybody. But yeah, a couple times I've had to do what's called a compensation study. On a compensation study, you normally bring a consultant in and you look at what's called the market basket. You'll sit down there, you'll take your company, and you'll look at comparable jobs in other companies that are comparable to it. In my case, working at a college, but you also have some jobs compare also in hospitals. You have some in the private sector as well. So you have this class of jobs, you go compare to this in the market basket, and you compare them. Now, the problem that you're going to have is that you may have different levels of perception. This person here may be a very valued employee and a super hard worker. This one may be a good employee. They don't work as hard as this one over here. Okay. And but by the time they're done with the market basket, all of a sudden the market basket says the duties in this job, they're not looking at volume, they're looking at the duties of the job, are a higher level compensation wide overall in the market basket, and you should give them a raise. So all of a sudden you're giving the person who doesn't work as hard a 10% raise because they exist and are in that job over here. And this person is livid and they feel it is inequitable. I'm telling you, this issue will drive people and drive wedges between people in the workplace and also between the employee and management, especially in human resources. Okay. And people will hate at a deep level an almost unresolved hate if you don't treat them with what they feel is perceived equity. If you don't do it, they will sit down there and hold grudges against you for years afterwards, and you may never even know about it. Pay attention to this. Try to maintain equity between the inputs and outputs compared to others in similar positions. That's critical. If you ever have to do a market basket compensation study or comparing your jobs to something outside, make certain you hire a consultant. Then can just blame that consultant did recommend it. It's not my idea. It's theirs, and blame them nonstop and toss them underneath that bus as best you can, metaphorically, not physically. Don't toss consultants under buses. It's always a bad thing. But that being said, make certain that perceived inequities they can lead to lower productivities and really an internal bitterness and almost a hatred sometimes of people. It's a big issue. Read this and make certain that you pay attention to it. It's a big thing. A lot of times you also want to be involved in job enrichment. Sometimes jobs are boring, and so you're sitting down there doing the same thing for the last 7 years. I'm working over here on payroll. I'm processing this form over here. Here comes another form. Here comes another form. It's all the same thing. And you want to do something different. So you sit down and enrich it by having them do something different. They take the form and then they sit down, they enter it, and then they follow through. So instead of just doing one level job, you may give them multiple jobs in it. Once upon a time, I worked in the summertime in a factory, and in the factory there were 5 of us on an assembly line. The first person sat down there, they opened up a mold, and then the second person put a screen in. The third person sat down, they operated a machine that squirted polyurethane into the mold. The third person closed it, and the fourth person shoved it off and brought another one online. So you had this constant thing. And after about the third week, our brains are fried. So on our own, we decided to change it up. We changed positions. The supervisor comes by and says, "What'd you guys do?" I said, "We got bored." I said, "So we changed our jobs." I said, "We're doing a better job now because we're more refreshed." "Oh, okay." So you one job, and we changed the jobs again and it worked because of the fact we're looking at the aspect of motivators such as responsibility, achievement, recognition. And by the way, it worked. We didn't even know about the theory at the time when we were doing this. Sometimes you want to do something extra. A lot of things that's going to change if you have job enrichment, skill variety, task identity, task significance, autonomy, feedback. These 5 things, they really help people feel more empowered in their jobs. Pay attention to them, put them in your notes, not so much for the class, but for long term. People like to sit down and have some variety in their job. Sometimes you do really the job enrichment. Sometimes you do job enlargement, just making it physically bigger. Sometimes you may have people say, "That's my job." Well, maybe you sit down and have a good shift. Sometimes you want to play musical chairs like the picture over here and do job rotation. Sometimes you need to have people think about different things. You've been in accounting now. Would you be interested in working for marketing? The job pays exactly the same. It's a whole different thing. Marketing, I'm an accountant. Okay, but you've been bored. Yeah, I've been bored. Okay, so maybe you shift a different side of the house. That happens a lot, and you'll see 74% of the CEOs really come from inside the organization. Sometimes it's that whole aspect of jumping from one division to the next and having that knowledge, and also having some political power in both divisions, paying attention to that. So think about job rotation as well. That helps a lot, along with the job enrichment. So you have different aspects. You have really the aspect of job enlargement. You have the aspect of job enrichment. You have the job rotation. And so think about the different things you can do, maybe watching something from the beginning all the way to the end into the customers. Put the theory into action, create a culture that rewards listening, train managers to listen, have good questioning techniques, make it easy to communicate on different aspects of it. Have self-managed teams. A lot of times that works an awful lot. I've seen organizations where they vote for team leaders every year and they try to rotate it out, but every once in a while get stuck with the same person. But sometimes they enjoy that person leading them. Respect the workers, provide interesting work, develop the skills. If you're developing skills, actually your turnover tends to get much lower because you keep on developing them. Of all things, you look over at a company like FedEx. FedEx has one of the lowest worker turnover rates in the entire industry because they do a lot of training. The training reduces things, even on a job as boring as hopping in a truck, dropping something off, getting back in the truck, going to the next one. Their retention is high because of the fact that they do a lot of training. Decentralized authority, try to push decision making down and reward good work. Nothing works like the wow factor. On this aspect over here, you'll see the Team Mustang. They came out with a really the aspect of what is the Mustang. You'll see that aspect over here. Recognize a job well done, advancement opportunities, make certain there's flexible schedules, vacation days. Here's a whole series of things to do. I've even done the aspect of I had a program where we rewarded employees for being caught doing something good. So what would happen was you have an opportunity. If somebody sits down, catches an employee doing something good, they would turn in the thing to human resources. Human resources would submit it to the manager. I wanted to make certain the manager had good things because sometimes people politicize these motivational aspects. And so the manager would approve it. Once they approved it, they would automatically get a certificate and also a chance to go to a buffet restaurant we had. We asked them to open them up for us in the morning, and we actually took over a restaurant that they opened up a half hour for us. So we had almost 200 employees show up half an hour, and we all treated them because they were all rewarded. Now, what was interesting, some people got multiple rewards, and so they got a special pin. Okay, we called it the strongest link. Instead of the missing link, it was the strongest link program. It was highly successful. It also did a couple other things. There were about 7 people in the group that never were recognized for doing anything good. They weren't very good employees, and all of a sudden you had 200 people showing up and 7 didn't. That being said, do you think the 7 improves their game? Yeah, but it also identified them as you really are the weakest link in the process. So it was kind of a fun thing in that aspect. But we recognized everybody. It was probably one of the most significant events I've ever seen. People loved it because they were recognized by somebody else. We caught you doing something good. Rewards. Pay attention about certificates and plaques. Just depends what people want. You're looking at a lot of things. Here's the golden banana award. A lot of people found the golden banana appealing, of course, and the employees all liked it a bunch. Of course, I have to say that no matter what happens. You also have this global motivation thing. You have to be careful about cultures. When you go into a different culture, rewards and punishment can be perceived totally differently because of the culture that they have. And if you're not used to it, if you're not used to what's out there, that can be a big deal. You also have to pay attention to compensation levels. Okay, if you get a 10% raise in the United States, okay, and a 10% raise in India, the salary structures are very different in those cultures. You have to pay attention to that. It is a nightmare if you're working in a global human resource department as well. So global motivation, pay attention to the high context and the low context cultures. Just so you know, in the United States, we have a low context culture, which means a lot of employees feel free to express themselves to people at much higher levels in the workplace than you would in other cultures. If you did the same thing in Japan, it would be appalling because they're very high context as to you talk to go up the chain of command the right way, because the right way is always the best way in their culture. So pay attention to what that is, and pay attention, especially if you want to sit down and become a leader in a global country, make certain you understand the differences in the cultures. Bringing employees in on the company's overall vision is a big thing on a budget. Pay attention to what's out there. You can sit down and have great motivational programs inexpensively by just changing things, empowering people, rotating jobs, and having job enlargement. Enrichment, enlargement, rewards. It's a global workplace, and teams now matter more than ever. Equity and enrichment. Take care.